The state to help protect your child from what social media can expose them to. But as our Joe Harris reports, the ACLU is sounding the alarm over one proposed bill, saying it would be a risk to your privacy and violate your free speech.
Nebraska State Senator Tanya Storer says social media can be harmful to your kids and says there's plenty of research to support that.
We see dramatically increasing rates of anxiety, clinical depression, self-harm, and suicidal ideation. That includes body dysmorphia and a variety of other mental health concerns.
Her bill, LB 383, would require social media websites to verify a person's age before they can create a profile, and if they're under 18, parental consent would be needed.
This isn't really a new concept, age verification online. It's done for alcohol sales, it's done for gambling websites, and most recently last year, there was a provision in the pornography bill for age verification.
The Nebraska ACLU says the measure goes against free speech rights, which apply to teenagers like everyone else, and that First Amendment rights do apply to social media platforms, unlike adult websites.
There's a difference between an adult website, like the law that was passed, last year, versus something like social media, which is literally a place created just to talk. And so the regulations on that are different.
Severino says Storer's bill is similar to a law Arkansas passed in 2023 that a federal judge put a temporary injunction on. Storer says she hasn't read that law, but Nebraska Attorney General Mike Hilgers believes her bill would be enforceable.
We're talking about minors under the authority of their parents. And as in any other situation, that parents have rights over what their children have access to.
The ACLU is also raising privacy concerns, since the bill would require minors to provide digitized ID cards with the same information as a driver's license or other government issue ID. Severino says prohibiting platforms from keeping that information doesn't quiet that concern.
That's easier said than done when information is imprinted onto hard drives on a server somewhere, and even if it's deleted off the hard drive, the information still remains retrievable through certain processes.
Storer counters that social media companies can already piece together that information with the pictures, location, and other data they currently collect.
We can use Snapchat as an example that it is theoretically deleted, but yet can be recovered, if that is a concern as well.
She also adds her proposal includes fines up to $2,500 per violation for companies that don't delete that information. In Omaha, Joe Harris, First Alert 6.
The ACLU says it isn't necessary to have a law to look out for kids on social media, saying parents can already monitor what their children see. The Judiciary Committee will hold a hearing on Senator Storer's bill. A date hasn't been set yet.